What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update and price guide, and this time it's for the Power of the Force 2 line from 1995 until about 2000. I've had a couple of subscribers request that we do another update for this awesome line, and there's been a number of really interesting sales over the last few weeks to months that I wanted to talk about. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I do price guides for all kinds of different Star Wars stuff, both comic books and action figures. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter of the channel, it's patreon.com/actionfiguregrader. And as always, thanks to my Patreon supporters, you guys allow this channel to happen. Let's dig into some pretty awesome Power of the Force 2 items that I've sold here recently. And we're going to start off with these Showtime exclusive sticker Power of the Force 2 figures. This seller had a number of them for sale, and correct me if I'm wrong for all of you POTF2 experts out there, I believe the Showtime exclusives were only available for Showtime employees when the original Star Wars films appeared on Showtime exclusively back in the day. I could be wrong on that, but I know that these are very, very desirable sticker variations for these card backs. And they go for big money, even on Facebook. I saw one sell recently on Facebook for big money. This is the Darth Vader on the Holofoil Collection 3 green card. And you can see that exclusively on Showtime sticker there. And that one sold for $250 plus $11.75 shipping. That's some big boy money right there for a Power of the Force 2 figure. And again, this same seller also had the Stormtrooper with the Holofoil green card back. It was listed for $185 and it sold for $120. It did have quite a bit of edge wear, as you can see at the top of the card back, so that held the price down a little bit relative to the Vader. And he also had us a graded example. This was an AFA 75 Showtime sticker ASP-7 droid, and you can see there it says the Showtime sticker on the AFA label. The grades were 85, 70, 90. And so it looks pretty nice there. That one sold, it was listed for $250. It sold for $175 plus shipping. So anytime you see that Showtime exclusive sticker on these Power of the Force 2 figures, you can expect to pay some pretty good money, but that's some data points there for you. Here was a graded, UKG graded Power of the Force 2 Spirit of Obi-Wan mail-away figure. So these appeared in mail-away boxes, and they were a sealed baggie. It was kind of a transparent figure. And it was graded UKG 90%. This was in 1997. And it did receive one bid. It sold for 90 pounds or 108 US dollars plus shipping. And it's fairly common. It's not very hard to find that one. There's another mail away is like the Kellogg's Han in Stormtrooper disguise. That is another mail away that you can pick up within this line. Here was a UKG 90% Trilogo Boba Fett. And this one just had the circles on the hand. So, as we've talked about in past Power of the Force 2 market updates, there's several different variations for the Power of the Force 2 Fett. You can either get the full circles, which is the most common on his hand, and it shows very clearly on his hands there that he's got the full circles. You can also get half circles, where there's like a line going through it, or there's a variation where one hand doesn't have any circle at all. And there's also missing emblems on these shoulder gauntlets, as well as the missing emblem on the chest piece. So lots of different factory errors and different variations for Boba Fett. And the more rare ones are like the ones missing the circles, things like that. This one was the most common figure, but it was on the Trilogo card. It sold for 122 pounds at auction, which is 146 US dollars, 22 bids. So even the most common Fetts can still command some pretty good money if they're in high grade. Here was an uncirculated 85 red card, US card, with, again, the same circles on the hand. So this is one of the most common figures you can get, but it is an uncirculated 85. And that one sold for $400. So I don't know. I don't know if that is a legitimate price, but it's listed as a legitimate sale, and that does seem really high for a very common Boba Fett variation, but it was a U85 grade. Next up was a CAS 80 grade Power of the Force 2 orange card. So again, the most common version. That one was listed for $250 and it sold for $200. So if you have this figure on the orange card with the half circles or some other variations like we just talked about, you can expect to pay more money apparently now, because the market has dictated that Boba Fett on this card back, even in the most common variation, which is the orange card with the full circles, still commands big money graded. Next up was the Italian Gig card. You can see the Gig logo there in the upper right-hand corner below the Kenner logo, and it's got the Garistellari logo. And this is the long tray short saber version. It was graded UKG 80%. I believe I have this one in an 85 or 85 plus. I can't remember. But what the short tray, or the long tray short saber is referring to, is that eventually they transitioned over from the really, really long saber, and they decided it was too long, so they decided to cut it down to that shorter saber like you see here. But for a time, they decided to continue to use the inner trays that had the long saber indentation. So they were only produced for a very short time while Kenner, and apparently Gig, the Italian factory, worked their way through excess inventory. And that one sold for 69 pounds or $82.97 US dollars. That's a pretty good deal, but it was a lower grade. It was an 80 grade. Here was a THX leaflet insert UKG 85% Chewbacca. And you can find that leaflet on a number of these Trilogos. And this is one of the more common card backs, but that one only sold for 46 pounds, which is 55 US dollars. That is, basically grading costs once you factor in shipping. Next up is a very desirable one. This is the brown vest Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, and a number of these had a variation where that vest on inside the cape there was brown instead of black, and they were produced in lower numbers. That one was graded 85 by AFA, and you can see on the label there it says brown vest. So that one sold for $100 plus $10.70 shipping. That's a pretty good deal there, because that's a pretty desirable variation for the Luke Jedi Power of the Force 2 figure. This is an interesting one. I didn't realize this, but the Max Rebo band commands pretty decent money on the secondary market. None of these card backs were particularly mint, but this Rebo band, I'm assuming it's collectors who are opening these and then displaying them on their HasLab sail barge. I don't know that for a fact, but it just seems to be the natural fit for it, since really only Din Djarin is the only band member that has been produced in the Vintage Collection line so far. So I'm assuming that collectors are buying this set and then displaying them on their barge. But that sold for $150 at auction, 12 bids plus $10.70 shipping. So that just shows you that those band members are pretty desirable in the Power of the Force 2 packaging. And even the loose ungraded is the set here, and that one sold for $85 free shipping. So again, I think it's just people wanting to use them for their barge display, but that's just me guessing. And as I've talked about in other videos, Power of the Force 2 figures make great items to get autographed at conventions. And obviously Dave Prowse is no longer with us, but this one is a removable helmet, freeze frame action slide Darth Vader that has been signed by Dave Prowse very prominently there on the card back. I have this one myself graded. And this one sold for $300 plus $9.45 shipping. That's over double what I paid for mine. But again, I purchased mine prior to Dave Prowse's passing. So this card back in particular, even unsigned, is a pretty desirable one. It does command pretty decent money on the secondary market. The removable helmet Darth Vader on the freeze frame action slide. Next up is the Atat Walker, and this one is another item that is pretty desirable with collectors. And I think this, my logic is that the vintage Kenner version has gotten so expensive, even loose, that collectors are deciding to get the Power of the Force 2 version instead. But this one was loose. It did include the box, as well as the two pack-in figures, which is the AT-AT Commander, General Veers, and the AT-AT Driver. And that one sold for $150 plus $30 shipping. And I found a number of other data points that kind of support that price point. This one sold for $171.50 in the same condition. And here was a mint. What's interesting is that this is a mint and sealed box version that sold for less. Well, I think after factoring and shipping, it actually was a little bit more money. But this one sold for $130 plus $63.45 shipping. But that's a mint and sealed box version versus a loose version. So again, it could be displayability. People don't want to deal with a mint and sealed box version, so they just get a loose complete version instead. But that's just another data point there for those of you who like that AT-AT Walker. And then here was another one. This seller had 4 of them, and they were mint and sealed box, and the boxes looked nice and clean, just a little bit of edge wear here and there. But he had 4 different ones available, free shipping, but they were $270, and all 4 of them did sell. So that's a pretty desirable item. And again, if you get a mint and sealed box vintage Kenner version, you're probably talking closer to $2,000 or more if it's in high grade. So again, I think it's just a factor of being priced out of the vintage Kenner version. The Raincore Monster is another one that has continued to command pretty decent money. And, we all know about the failed Black Series HasLab Raincore. And this one was mint and sealed box. And as you can see there, it's got Luke with his little bone in his hand. And the box was kind of beat up. It wasn't mint by any means. It was listed for $110 and it sold for $100, was the best offer that was accepted, plus $18 shipping. And then I found a couple of other data points kind of in that same price point. This one sold for $120 plus $8.89 shipping. This one sold for $142.45 plus shipping. This was down in Australia. This was 208 Australian dollars, which is 142 US. And another one that I think has jumped up a little bit in price based on the book of Boba Fett and some of the scenes, the flashback scenes that we saw where Boba Fett was kind of taken in by the Tusken Raiders. And that's the Power of the Force 2 Bantha with the Tusken Raider. I used to have this one actually in my collection before I sold it off just due to space constraints, but pretty cool item. That one sold for 142 US or about 140 euros plus shipping. And then the Tatooine Skiff is another one in the Power of the Force line from the original Power of the Force. That one's gotten so expensive. So a lot of collectors are now veering towards this Tatooine Skiff as kind of a backup option, but this was mint and sealed box and sold for 75 pounds or 90 US dollars. And then finally, I wanted to finish off with a prototype item. This was a never actually produced at retail Comtech chip for Chewbacca. And, so originally they were going to put this on the Comtech chip card back, and Chewbacca was just never released. This seller had 5 of them. 4 of them have sold for £27.99. There's one still available, and that equates to about $33.66 US plus shipping. I know that Blacked Out Ewoks, fellow YouTuber, he picked up one of these, but that's kind of a cool item. Just a cool pre-production item that never made it to retail, unproduced, and it's kind of a little chip that was included with the figure inside a blister, and they did make those for a lot of the Episode 1 figures, where you'd put the figure on this Comtech chip, and then it would spit out sound effects or words, things like that. But it was never released for Chewbacca. So anyway, just some interesting items that are out there for the Power of the Force 2 line. It's a kind of an underappreciated line, mainly due to the big hulking bodies. And, I do think that there are some really nice examples out there that you can collect. I certainly have a number of examples in my collection on these top 2 shelves, as you can see behind me. But they're just kind of a underappreciated line that certainly does have some cool items to add to your collection. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.